xa siphinda thi malisolungileyo siqala le nkqubo ngale njikalanga sithokomisa intloko malisolungileyo sibulela ubungangamsha bakho malisolungileyo le veki yonke siphethe umcimbi oethe-ethe wamakhaya sithemba into okokuba uzawukhokela kuhlale kwiincam zezithethi ozibekileyo malisolungileyo ukuze zithethe konke oziphathise khona wangathi xolungileyo singathi xa ziphela ezi session sitsho sithi inene simvile uThixo ethetha nathi umem ozawuthi ajongane nalo mcimbi Thixo olungileyo simbeke esandleni sakho naye nomfundisi uTebe zonke into sicela sithembile ngoba siyazi uyasenzela ngelihle igama lenkosi umfeli nomvukeli wethu Yesu Kristu amen.
Amen. Mfundisi, Pastor Phoswa, welcome. Ndiyacela mani mfundisi uvele nje kancinci usibulise. Uyoske uyicima ividiyo yakho kwakhona. Xa sobona uba awukho comfortable. Khawuziveze nje sesichazile ubana imeko yakho imbi. Enkosi mfundisi, and welcome to your district. Welcome to your district. Njengoba uvela nasephandazweni, yes, siphethe umcimbi wamakhaya this week and itopic yanamhlanje it's a bit difficult but ndithembile nokubana you will take us through, so I'll allow you to present and then in the middle mhlambi somewhere up and bonguti we need to chip in, we'll chip in and ask the questions, but we'll have an engaging session. So you can do your introduction and then we can take it from there. Over to you, Mfundisi.
All right. Nkosi kakhulu mandiphinde ndizibulisele ngegama elihle lenkosi yethu nguYesu. Amen. All right, so today i-topic yethu ithi family, faith and focus in a digital world. Family, faith and focus in a digital world. Siyazi namhlanje we are living in a world that has a lot of valuable conveniences. Enye's conveniences sinazo that are valuable is actually the technological tools that we have. So technology is a good tool, but we need to make sure we balance, we use technology and we remain in control of technology so that the technology does not control us and we become enslaved to it. So imitshato yethu ke ngoku can be compromised by technology when we do not have presence in our marriages. If you look at Genesis chapter 2 verse 24, which is one of the verses that we are looking at this week, ithi xa ithetha, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. Now, this leaving and cleaving means ukuthi the man has to leave the presence of his family so that his main attention may be upon his wife. Now, it doesn't mean to forsake the family, at all, but he needs to leave the presence of his family. He needs to leave the care of his mother and father, meaning angabikho phansi kwabo, so that he can be able to cleave to his wife. So there's a suggestion here, ukuthi, without leaving, you cannot cleave. Now, if a man has to leave his father and his mother to cleave to his wife, by the way, in the context of the audience, Moses, the first audience, the primary audience, Moses, which is the children of Israel who had just left Egypt. This issue of a woman cleaving was a given. I mean, leaving her family. We see it kwibali sokwenza nje mhlawumbe umzekelo about Rebecca. for Isaac. We are back to the Ur of the Chaldees, and they see a corner. He finds Rebecca, but Rebecca has to make a decision to leave his family. Sorry, she needs to make a decision to leave her family in order for her to be joined to her husband. So it's the leaving of the wife was a given. And if you are Kapela Payana, Rebecca goes to join Isaac, who was still under his father's homestead or family stead.
Pelo, please mute. Ngicela wonke umuntu okhoyo, please mute. Ngicela umuntu amute uphuma nakwi-video. Enkosi iyaphazamisa. Xolo mfundisi, you can continue.
No problem. Ma'am, by the way, I think we host and you have the authority to mute any of us. Even now, kufuneka ndithule ungandimute if ndithathe hour and a half up. So I'm saying this to say, by the way, this whole thing of living and cleaving is that if we have to leave our families, if we have to leave our mothers and our fathers in order to be able to be joined together or to cleave, how much more when it is necessary to leave the technology? So here what we learn is that we need to be joined together. We need to be one. And in the oneness, we cannot allow technology to come in between and separate us. So we need to have, we need to ask for God's grace. And we need to ask for God to give us growth so that we can become responsible in our use of technology. So that sikwazi maintain a healthy connection and a healthy communication with one another as couples. Not only as couples, even as nasebantwaneni bethu. Sometimes abantwana bethu, they need our attention, but sibhizi phoning. And they learn from us that whoever we are talking to on the phone or whatever we're doing on the phone is more important than them. And then they grow up to do the same thing to us. And kumbula umfundisi no Memtebe, they were doing a powerful program, Ekabiga, and one of the things that umfundisi mentioned in the program is that especially teenagers, bangabantu abazivalelayo ezirumini. And now, if you have these teenagers abazivalelayo ezirumini, sifike xa sifuna attention yabo babhizi bakwi-earphones, bakwi-airpods, bakwi-headphones, and bako TikTok and abasinikeza attention. Sometimes it's because they learn it from us. They learn that and it might not be something important like ndiku Zoom ngoku and I'm doing work. I'm in a week of prayer, but as butata is just scrolling. So we need to make sure that we guard ourselves and we guard our relationships so that we are not. Yes.
On
Yes,
that
ma'am.
note, your phone.
Yes.
If phone gekaban between his spouses here at home, who does the phone belong to? Who has access to it? Do you have to give your spouse access? It's in by your phone.
Yeah. Look, Abanduge may argue with me on this one. Which is good, is welcome. If mdichatile nonkosikazi wami, yes, phone in a very technical level yam, because phone number yam abantu xa befona le phone number bafonela mna abafonela unkosikazi wami, and nonkosikazi uneyakhe phone eneyakhe number nami endimfonela kuyo. So at that level, yes, yami phone. But I don't know at any level where I can have a space in my life upon the unkosikazi wami is not welcome. Meaning, unkosikazi wami can pick up my phone at any time and she can do whatever she wants with it. We are born. And I'm not talking about prying and looking for izinto. I'm just talking about just access. Actually, I've never seen abantu struggling with indaba phone when the spouse has open access. Normally, the spouses who have open access, they don't even have an interest in looking through the phone. Unless ukhona into ayikhangelayo umuntu, like khona ifoti ethile wakhe wayithatha and ayikhangele, or a specific message ebekuthumele yona, or whatever. That is concrete. Normally, people who have a problem of having abantu abafuna ujonga iifowuni zabo specifically ngabantu who don't give access, because it raises the question of what are you hiding in your phone that you don't want me to see as your spouse. Now abantu they have their own theories, but it's mine. No, it's yours, yeah. But you are one at the end of the day. So what is the secrecy about? Because that thing creates suspicion. And so I would, if I would be asked the question, I would say rather have openness. Uthi Thixo xa ethetha after this verse of leaving his mother and father, and the men and the women were both naked and they were not ashamed. So we need to have a level of nakedness in our relationships and in our marriages, and not be ashamed. We need to be open. We need to communicate openly. But of course, it needs to be something that is discussed, that you have access to my phone. Like unkosikazi, she has an access to my phone in a face recognition technology. But it does have an option that recognize ubuso, you can put in the passcode and it's not a problem. So she's able to do that. The phone yakhe has her own fingerprint to open, and I don't have a fingerprint, but I do have her password, so that if I need to look at something or look into something or put something in her phone, as omncedisa, I can have access to it. And because she trusts me and I trust her. So that's how we operate it, kweyam indlu. And it's about openness, communication, no secrecy, and all of those things. Because these secrets is yawubulala umtshato. Because by the time the secret comes out, then the trust is lost. And when trust is lost, it's very hard to gain it back. It's very hard to gain it back.
No, I asked the question because we are talking about the positives and the negatives of the technology. And this is a thorn in a lot of marriages in the phone technology, specifically phone, not laptops and other types of technology.
Yes.
But specifically phone is a thorn in the flesh. So I thought let's put it out there so that people understand where are we coming from when you're talking about living and cleaving and the transparency and the nakedness when it comes to your phone. Does not mean phone all willy-nilly. It just means that they have access to it because we are transparent, we are naked with each other.
All right, so there's something that we can call absent presence, where we are there but we're not there. And this is what these phones do. They hear a buzz, you lose them. They see a notification, you lose them. They will want to glance quickly, you're in the middle of the conversation, and it breaks that flow and that connection. Sometimes is just land doom scrolling. They're just scrolling a content particular by kangelayo. They're just going through statuses and all of those things. And they can steal the presence that you should have amongst each other, as a family, as spouses, even when you're interacting with your children. So it's important to set boundaries, to say what times do we lock out so that abantu are not able to gain access. So if phones are zimnandi, because you can set up your phone for privacy. And the privacy with phones is there, depending on what phone you use. But I know that at least, for example, iPhone, in a privacy wayo, sleep mode, work mode, personal mode, and so on and so forth. So what I've done is that when I'm driving, you cannot call my phone.
Sorry,
Okay, thanks Stella kumutwe, so that we don't. Yes, and cool. All right. So we need to make sure that we guard sacredly space to together as a family. So um apparently there's a rule that we have made that for example during breakfast or supper or any meal that we have together as a family, you're not allowed to use your phone. You're not allowed to use your phone. You're not allowed to touch your phone. The only time you touch your phone is if you are going to do something that will benefit everyone on the table. Whether it's a video that you want to show and have a conversation about, or anything like that. Awuzukwenza into oyenza wedwa that takes your attention from the rest of the people apha etafileni. All right. So in order for us to be one, we need to be all in. Like besitsho kula verse besifunda, it says they become one flesh, and we cannot have divided attention and be one at the same time. So we need to have that quality time. When we are having, let's say, our pillow talks, it should be a rule that we don't go on the phone and start scrolling ngokusincokola and about intimate things, about the day, about how things have been, and how what are the things that have made us happy, what are the things that have made us mad, what is troubling us, njalo njalo. How was your day at work and whatever. Zonke ezo ncoko siba nazo just to connect mhlawumbi before we go to sleep. We need to make sure that we don't have disturbances, and we need to be able to ignore phone calls. Yeah, to ignore phone calls. I have a rule of thumb, Gemnag, is that if my phone is on personal mode, you have to call it 3 times in order for it to go through. You have to call it 3 times in order for it to go through. Otherwise, Apple does not allow it. I just put it on personal, and it will not allow your phone to go to your call to go through. And it helps me a lot. Even I can't funda okanye ndisebenza like ndilungisa intshumayelo and I don't want to be disturbed, I just put it on work mode. And when it's on work mode, you have to call at least 3 times. Then if you don't call 3 times, I guess it's not an emergency. If you call umuntu ofayo, you'll call me 3 times. Sometimes I cook work mode, but in the family, and especially if it's on my day off, I don't answer it. You'll have to call 3 times. Okanye uzothumela message uthi hey mfundisi kukhona lena please call me yabona xa unethuba. And then I'll listen to it and I'll see, okay, this is, I mean, I'll see it. Trying to emergency, I'll see very quickly that it is an emergency. So we need to make sure that we don't allow that. So God's design allows us, requires us to be all in. Number 2, love cannot be multitasked. Yeah, love cannot be multitasked. Siyibona loo nto xa sinabantwana abancinci abazintsana. A lot can happen in a few seconds if you try to multitask uthando emntwaneni. I remember there was a time when ndandime nentombi yami yayihleli ilento uyana, the elder one. I think when I around 1. And we're still past washing machine. And she's sitting there. Siyancokola nonkosikazi. I glanced away from her for maybe 1 or 2 seconds. Ndava pa nesikhala. So wawa phansi umntwana from, this is a top loader, by the way. So you can imagine the height of the washing machine. Thankfully, for some reason, ikhona ingelosi eyafika yamkushina because she never had a bruise. She never had anything from that fall. I think wawa ngezandla rather than wangenhloko. So by a miracle of God's grace, zange kube khona anything drastic yenzeka. But even not nasebantwaneni, when we're not fully present with each other, we cannot fully connect. And so we need to make sure ukuthi we have time for work, senze izinto sitting. But when it's time for family time, we give our all to our families. We give our all to our families. The problem here today, Kuba, in other areas of life, we've gotten used to this thing of giving half our attention. As meeting, we're scrolling through phones. We are listening with one ear while with one ear senza loo nto siyenzayo. Even sometimes bukele ilento videos kuba bona mos napha eParliament ukuba njengoba behleli nje kuxoxwa kukhona abantu abadlala ii-games bona kwii-iPad zabo and all of those things. So another principle ebalulekileyo which is provided also by the Sabbath is the time for restoration of rhythm and also for restoring marriage. So Isabata gives us time to unwind, time when we don't have to answer our phones, we don't have to answer to our bosses, we don't have to answer to our colleagues, we don't have to answer to our subordinates, emisebenzini, but where we can take rest with God. And that's why we need to allow a portion of the Sabbath ibe lixesha for the family yethu, where we can spend time uninterrupted and focus on each other. And ngeli xesha we need to have unhurried conversations. We need to be able to listen without interruptions, either interruptions from us or interruptions from the outside world through technology. We need to have time of shared worship and prayer. And we need to just have simple affection and warmth. We need to be more affectionate towards one another. We need to cuddle. We need to speak kindly. We need to speak words of affirmation to each other. We need to speak words of love, words of kindness. We can even share, you can even have a time as a family where you can share your what you appreciate about each person in the family. Sometimes we do that as a family. I'll say one thing I appreciate about each member of the family. Start with my wife, and then I go to my firstborn, and then I go to my secondborn. And then my wife goes, she'll say something she has appreciated about me this week, something that I did that she really appreciated. And then we'll go to the girls. We'll give her a chance. She will also say, "This is what I appreciated about Daddy. This is what I appreciated about Mommy. This is what I appreciated about Amy." And then we go to Amy and so on and so forth. And what it does is that it gives us a time to listen to each other, to know what is appreciated, what is loved, and also how to give more of that to enhance the happiness of each of the members of the family. All right. So le nto ayithetha ukuba sizuyisebenzisa le nto i-technology, but it means that we need to have a balance. We need to be careful of digital distractions, and we need to guard our marriages. All right.
Mfundisi, ngicela ungena kule ndawo. You
No
mentioned
problem.
pillow talk, you mentioned private time with family. Does this mean that you are advising into yokubana zingangeni ifowuni ezirumini, or if iyangeni ifowuni bekho certain limitations as per the
Yes.
family into enivumelana ngayo? Because kaloku
Yes.
khumbula ubana xa ungena efowunini omnye uzothi hayi mna ndibiza ubuthongo ngayo ifowuni, omnye athi hayi. There are so many excuses. Are you advising that technology should not affect our pillow talk, our bedroom time, our special time together? There's many rules around that.
Yes, you need to sit down as a family and agree on how you are going to preserve la Klesha as sacred. And I would even suggest that you actually put away your phones. Maybe it's a good time to charge them. Especially when you're preparing to sleep. For other health reasons, actually, it's best for you not to be scrolling through your phone before lal, because as phones they emit blue light, and blue light actually affects the production of melatonin, which is the hormone that helps your mind to relax, so that when you go to sleep, you are able to go to a rapid eye movement sleep, where your memories are actually restored and whatever. I mean, izinto that you have gone through the day, the mind arranges them well. And what needs to go to your long-term memory goes to your long-term memory and all of that. It affects the quality of your sleep, and all of that. And therefore, it is actually advisable for you not to use your phone about 30 minutes to an hour before you go to sleep. So that is the time you can use to have your devotion or just your prayer as a couple, and then just that time to connect. Even if and I'm not talking about long periods of time. I'm talking about just 20 minutes, 30 minutes where you're just talking and connecting, and then you pray together and then you go to sleep. The phone can wait for 30 minutes. I don't think we should be so much slaves to phones that we cannot have 30 minutes between a 8:30 to 9 if nilala ngo-9, or 9 to 9:30 if nilala ngo-9:30. Other people should be able to understand that you people need time together, as a family. But this is not being prescriptive, ukuthi specifically each couple mayenze njani, but at least have an agreement, have boundaries that you set, and don't, and keep each other accountable. All right. During the day, umzekelo phaa endlini, unkosikazi can answer the phone at any time. But when we're at the dinner table, then we have to ask for permission. Yeah, bon. And normally we only answer the phone when close family members call. It's normally on her side, because especially umama wakhe no sister wakhe and all of that, sometimes they call. But normally we all engage in the phone call, because if umama wakhe abantwana, they want to interact with umakhulu and everything, so it becomes everyone involved in the conversation. But if someone calls me who is a personal friend, ofuna uncokola izinto zam naye, for example, I don't answer the call. I might not answer, and then I will call them later on and say, hey, I was having breakfast, I was having dinner with my family, and whatever. I'm sorry I couldn't answer your call, and I try not to even write a message at that time, unless there's automatic messages quick. Ukwazi uphendula ngazo, so that ifoni ingaqhubeki uringa perpetually. Yeah.
Okay, no, this thing here, your technology is quite tricky, because people sometimes feel as if you're being prescriptive when it comes to in the phone. Okay, technology, was most people work in their phone, even the children also, they do schoolwork and get phone. So I think I appreciate what you mentioned, Bana. You just have timetables. Bana, like you would have at school or at work. Lunchtime is from 1 to 2. So if you also have the same thing at home, to say from 7 till 8, we are having worship, from 6 to this time, it's dinner time, no phones on the table. It's rules that people can adhere to, like you would if it was some in. So if it also helps, obviously, with the communication. Even if there were no phones, it's important to communicate about the day as a family, so that you are able to pinpoint if there are any issues with the kids, or if there's anything that's troubling your spouse. You can't pick that up. You don't allow time, especially kuhlalwe phansi kuncokolwa ngabantu. Konke iyakwazi uba ivale elo thuba lobana ukwazi uqaphela ezi issues ezikhona. Now in families, they go through a lot of things. So if you don't have that time, chance then you'd miss a lot of things, because phone can take away a lot of our attention. One may also argue, there are a lot of things that we learn from the phone. Technology is helping us. Now there's AI, there's ChatGPT. So it's important to always have it in your hand. But yeah.
And by the way, there's nothing wrong with ChatGPT. Like sometimes man a conversation kindly, and we're like, oh, let's see what ChatGPT says. So there's nothing wrong with that, but it becomes problematic. Apo, you are sitting at the dinner table as a family, and then one person zones out. ChatGPT doing their own thing. They are no longer here in the table. Now I've seen sad things, and sometimes we observe them, Nongoskazi, and we see a family together. They are sitting at a table. It barely 10, 15 minutes. They are waiting for the dinner to come. They've placed their order, and everyone is on their phone. And they'll go home and say, we went out as a family, but they never spent time. They spent time in each other's presence, but they were not present.
Yeah.
Well,
so the time is affected with family.
The quality of the time is affected.
Yeah,
the quality of the time is affected.
Yes.
And we need to also learn to appreciate times without having to capture them on camera. One of the things that I've started deliberately doing is that when I'm at an event, I don't take pictures. I just absorb what is there. Because sometimes we get lost in photo taking and then in deleting the photos that have not come out right, and then let me retake and whatever. We cannot really fully absorb the moment of what is happening. Even nasenkonzweni, sometimes we are busy recording with our phones, that our attention is divided between the recording of the message and the actual absorption of the message. Sometimes we're in beautiful nature, and instead of enjoying the nature and absorbing what we are seeing, we're busy trying to take pictures and all of those things. Yes, if you've gone out to take pictures by all means. But if you're gone there to let's say commune with God in nature and whatever, focus on that. And what is being shown, people will be actually surprised to learn that the big tech guys, their children don't use technology throughout primary and high school. The schools that they have in Silicon Valley, they don't have computers, they don't have iPads, and they don't have phones. What they do is that they use books, because research has actually shown that even reading from a phone on an iPad is different than reading a paper with a pen and being able to mark what you're reading, write notes and all of that. And I'm saying this as a person who has, most of my books are on Kindle and Logos and Olive Tree. So I have a lot of digital books, and I highlight them, I write notes on them and whatever. But I do acknowledge that there is also this aspect, Yelend or technology, where we have to be very careful. Actually, one lady who's a cognitive neuroscientist, her name is Caroline Lee. If you find her books easily, Kukum books. In one of her books, Think, Learn, Succeed, she even advises that when you are doing research or studying, and when you want to really absorb what you are studying, it would be a good idea to even put your phone out of sight, because seeing your phone causes you to want to check whether any message came in or this or that. And I've tried what she says. I give my wife my phone. I say, please keep my phone. I'm going to be doing some research. I'll take it after I'm done. Actually, before my iPad, I had a water accident with my iPad, and then it stopped working. Before that, I had made a decision that my iPad, I use it mainly for reading and for research. And therefore, I did not put any apps in it that did not have to do. I didn't put YouTube. I didn't put Facebook. I didn't put any app that will do anything else other than reading, research, and all of that. So I designated one task to the iPad. Now, not everyone has the privilege to be able to buy an iPad specifically for that. But I would say to parents, if you want your child to access textbooks, consider rather buying them a tablet or an iPad, and have that specifically designated for their schoolwork. And they don't have any apps, any other apps, no game apps, no any other thing in that iPad. It is designated only for their schoolwork, so that they know that when they are handling that iPad, they are doing schoolwork, they are doing their assignments, they are doing their research, they are reading their textbooks, and all of those things. So some of the strategies that we can use to turn the tide in our families is to set clear digital boundaries, like we spoke about. We should also try to have a digital Sabbath, where we have a time, a regular periods of time where we disconnect with the outside world through technology and reconnect with each other. Develop a mindful tech habits. So be intentionally mindful when, why, and how you reach for the phone. Prioritize eye contact and physical presence, like looking at each other, nodding when you are talking, holding each other's hands, so that you communicate presence. Check in regularly. Have scheduled calm conversations about the impacts of screens upon yourselves. And this is what we do with my wife. We actually, from time to time, we talk about, hey, how has been your use of YouTube? How has been your use? I got to a point where now, since I'm studying, I've logged out of my Facebook, and I've logged out of my Instagram. I only log in when I need to send someone, a specific person, a message that I can only contact through these platforms. So I will log in, send them a message. If I have to have a conversation, have that conversation. When we are done with that conversation, I log out again. But I don't check statuses. I've decided that for the next 3 years, I'm not going to be checking statuses on Facebook, on Instagram, and whatever, because my time is limited. I have to study. I have to minister to my churches. I also have to be present as a husband and as a father. And so I took that decision because trying to control myself and all of that, I was like, it takes too much energy from me. I'd rather use that energy doing something else. Let me just log out of these things. That's the decision I made for myself. I'm not prescribing it. I'm describing it. Now, you also, as a father, you also as a husband, you also as a wife, as a mother, you also need to make a decision of what is best for you and for your family. But let us not sacrifice our marriages on the altar of technology. Some spiritual... Yes. Sorry.
Excuse me. Yes, ndiyayithanda le nto oyithethayo mfundisi yobana uthathe isigqibo sokubana mawuphume wena as an individual from izinto that you feel might disturb i-progress yakho. So this thing is not a collective thing apho uthi mna nonkosikazi. This is about you kuqala before you prescribe and say as a family, as a head of a family, uthi wena apha. These are things that I would actually appreciate bazenzeke. You've also shown responsibility when it comes to technology. But we have to be responsible when it comes to technology. I commend that, especially to I think Tatugama, yes, and course. I would some advise heads of families now to look into NJ, to say, as a family, this is where we want to go. So I would appreciate, but as a family, that's the By the way, if there are any people that have questions, you can send them through APA, and also raise your hands as well, or 1945, because we are planning to close off at 8 o'clock. 1945, we'll take the questions for Mfundisi directly. You can raise your hand, ubuze okanye ubhale apha umbuzo onawo. Enkosi Mfundisi, ungaqhubeka.
Okay, Enkosi kakhulu, I'm sorry. Ndizama ulungisa umcimbi ngoku. Ungathi battery yam is getting compromised, so I'm trying to just connect to the charger. Just give me
Yes,
please.
Is there anyone that would like to say anything? I think Mbone Isandla Sika Tatulandu, if I'm not mistaken, earlier on. If Kondo Funutata something on your phone, chance to connect. Any questions? No, Pamsa Isandla like. Or you can even unmute and start asking. Nangu utatu uti umbuzo. Nomdu. Sorry. Magazigqibele bethuna. Makungalindwa family heads. Yeah, bamfundisi uthi masingalindi abantu bangodade nomntu makazigqibele. Ithini, what's your take?
No. Ultimately, anything we do needs to be a personal decision. Ultimately, that is true. But we do have to also be responsible for the fact that we are here together as a family. And anything in the end, as my own personal capacity, will affect my wife, it will affect my children. So, and I cannot say that my wife does not have a say on how I use my phone. Because we are here together. My use of my phone affects her, and vice versa. Of course, you cannot prescribe, you cannot force, but this is that we need to discuss, and we need to encourage each other in the right direction. We cannot bury our heads in the sand, and act as if as this affect. And by the way, these are the small things that eat away at our marriages. And we end up being strangers to each other, though we're in the same roof. We are strangers to each other as spouses. We're strangers to each other as parents and children. And therefore, afunanga silinda kude kube khona crisis before we can say, hey, we need to take steps to remedy the situation. Yeah, but But Tina, we want to wait until there is a crisis, and then we go for counseling, we go for this and we go for that. So I do agree that each person has to make their own decision. Papu, in this wedding where we are, he actually mentioned the importance of preserving each person's individuality. But we don't also want to deteriorate ilendo individuality to individualism, where we act as if decisions must affect abanye abantu. We need to be responsible even with our individuality, and be thoughtful of the people that we share life with.
Okay, you mentioned Mfundisi earlier when you spoke about after living and cleaving, and then they became obviously naked and they were transparent and they were not ashamed up until obviously the point when sin entered. This sort of like insinuate into yokubana obu transparent, once umuntu angafuni uba transparent, then there's some form of sin that is entering. You are leading towards into joy, which then yenze abantu who are denied access to phones babe suspicious. Bana it's because of suspicion. Normally when we talk to couples nomfundis, by phone, yes, there's a phone go responsible for your ngegama lakho. So if any criminal activity happens, the phone in that is yako phone. So we encourage people to mabangene kwinto ethi no ndingayicele ifone so the other person azoyazi ba you are acknowledging bana ngeyakhe phone, because sometimes people become defensive angafuni ngento yakhe because of the way they approach. So we normally advise bana no icele ungene ku have to icele then uzayinikwa phone. Just umnike laa nto umuntu bana ifone ngeyakho. I acknowledge that phone ngeyam. Because sometimes there is sensitive information sometimes, because some couples argue for instance umfundisi une sessions anazo namarhamente and I have no part in that, so zinto zabe private, so kukhona izinto that I should not be seeing efowunini kamfundisi. So sort of like correct to request so that ndithi xa ndiyisebenzisayo ndizazi bana ndihamba ndiphele phi. So because boundaries are also important in emtshatweni. So what do you think kule nto boundaries ba ifowuni ithini into yayo sivumelene bana nika umntu but njani uvela uthi tata nje whenever ufuna, or what do you advise here?
My advice is that discuss it and do what works for you. Not you as an individual, but you as a couple. Do what works for you as a couple. I like what you are saying, Mem Yogoti. Request the phone if it is an issue for you to take the phone. Omgoska doesn't have to request the phone. She can just pick it up and I'll ask her, okay, and I'm not asking that in order to find out suspicious of you. I just want to help her find it quickly, so that another thing is to say no. The reason why the sensitive phone is because there are certain conversations, and nazo I'm a psychologist, I'm a counselor, and therefore there are issues of client and client confidentiality that I need to keep. I'm a pastor, so I'm counseling people sometimes, and sometimes it's through text messaging. And therefore I don't want you to see something that and it might not even be a lady, it might be another man who's sharing with me intimate issues but because Ngoska's Wam is not a trained pastor, and she has no responsibility to keep to herself what she hears. And there will be no consequences for her if we are yambisa. But for me, there are professional consequences if ndithetha into endiyixelelwe in confidence ndiyithethe komnye umuntu. So discuss those things. Mayingabi yonto ilwisayo uba ndiyacela ukuba ekuhambeni kwakho please don't look at any messages. Yeah, but before you open messages, consult, because you might run into confidential information. And enye into uzokothusa ngamarhamente ubonga yo ubani, and mhlawumbe bengavalanga uyayazi loo nto leyo, unless ngubani othi hayi man ukaye mhlawumbe ndithethe naye ndithe man le nto kuba inento nokwenza nomtshato wakho, do you mind if I talk to my wife? Uyabona, because mhlawumbe anganikeza a perspective of your wife, because mna kufuneka ndize le nto from a neutral standpoint, and ndiyayidinga mhlawumbe a female perspective. So can I talk to my wife about it? Uyabona, then even who gives me permission, but without that permission I cannot share willy-nilly what. So it needs to be an open discussion. Mayingabi yonto ixabanisayo. Ndine-information sensitive, ndilipolisa, and I don't want you to get involved kwizinto ze-investigations nentoni. And since ndifumana ezo information zinjalo, I don't want you to have a curiosity uzibone ufunda into kanti mhlawumbe ndifumene i-threat emsebenzini kumuntu endim-investigator athi uba ndiyaqhubeka ngale case uzandibulala, because now the next thing uzothi mani ngawenza umsebenzi wami because lo muntu uthe uzandibulala. Even nditsho. So we need to be frank with one another, and we need to be clear with one another, so that, because with understanding comes ease of respecting. But when you are being told that there's this boundary, but you don't know why the boundary exists, we can't run away from the fact that imitshato means yaphela.
Yeah.
And we can't run away from the fact that there's a lot of unfaithfulness in marriages. So when you seem to have secrets, even though they may be reasonable, but if you don't make clear your position to your spouse, you can cause an uneasiness and an anxiety. Yokuba hey kungathi kanti umyeni wami hayi kungathi kanti unkosikazi wami ubusy wenza izinto eziphume eqaleni, because we live in these realities and we are all human, and akusuba mhlawumbi thina we have this superpower that is greater than other people that makes us immune to ezinye izinto. But we also need to know that the openness also helps to protect us, because I do believe marriage also is not only there for our happiness, it's actually more there for our holiness. And mhlawumbi uThwele White naye xa ethetha athi one of the things umtshato uThixo asinikeze wona is to protect us from certain temptation.
Yes.
And I believe that openness and vulnerability and being open to each other and let each other in on our spaces. Londo leyo isenza ukuba by protective measure against certain temptation, because you are like, oh, okay, I've given my wife free access, so if I do anything funny, then it will easily appear. I'll just give you another example, Ngendo, that is may not be directly technology related, but it might help in this issue of openness. There are spouses who don't know what is happening in their spouse's finances, and it gets to a point where there was a time in one place this man was paying more than 6,000 rand a month for a mistress, for a phone mistress. This man is married and is paying more than 6,000 for a phone mistress, because this lady is using the phone willy-nilly. I'm going to go internet. She spends time on the internet. So I asked the man, so how are you able to spend 6,000 and your wife doesn't know? And how come it is possible for you, month after month, you are spending 6,000 on someone and your wife doesn't know? And therefore, that's why some pastors, I remember when I was being interviewed SAFM, and was talking about issues of marriage. And one of the things that he mentioned that he does when he does premarital counseling is to ask the spouses to both bring their bank statements here, so that each one can look at the other one's bank statements and see what their spending patterns are. And he said that he cannot continue with the marriage counseling, with the premarital counseling, if they're not willing to do that. And kukhona abantu who are able to rent for people that they are involved with outside of their marriages. But 14,000 every month, year rent. And the question is, how is that person able to do that? Whereas if there was more openness and more and better communication, that might have been a preventative measure to say, I can't just act anyhow with this bank account, because if my morality will not stop me, there is another measure that God has put, which is my spouse, that can also help protect me when I'm at my weakest point.
So the accountable.
Yes, there's an accountability. Yes. Yeah.
I'm just checking now if there are any questions. 8 minutes. Do we have any people that want to comment or ask questions with regards to technology? Just to recap, we read Genesis where Umfundisi mentioned that a spouse or a man should leave his family and cleave, and you can't cleave without leaving. And we used the analogy when it comes to technology to say you have to leave and be naked and transparent. Well, not just your phone, because there are laptops, there's some iPads, there's so many things, but most people use their phones. And we spoke about transparency when it comes to your phone, and we said, yes, communication is key. Let's set boundaries when it comes to your phone, but how do we hold each other accountable in the phone? Even family time as well. Umfundisi advised that we should put timetables or schedules to say, this is what we're going to do as a family. We have these rules, no phones on the table, or if we go out. So it's important to have these conversations as a family, as spouses, with the children, so that technology does not affect negatively as families. It might be corner to impact our lives positively. Is also so we've been discussing how technology can help our families grow and not kill our families, because even in the finances, Umfundisi mentioned abantu are able to do certain things as phone quick account bank accounts zabo. But if unkosikazi akwazi ungena ku-bank app okanye abone SMSs, then uzobona ubana kwimali engasetyenziswayo. So if you're not transparent, then iyachana. So phone could actually izokwenza uba accountable. There's a question or a comment phayana from Upulungile ethi, Mfundisi, why the break for 3 years? Is it purely because of studies? I can imagine it's tough as a pastor because social media assists you to notice some challenges amalungu nabantwana, especially youth, before they become complicated. I'm not sure.
Yes, no. The 3 years is purely because I'm studying, and I noticed that I spend more time than I plan to on social media. There's this thing called doom scrolling, and I found when I'm mentally exhausted, I easily engage in it, and I found that my mind is more clear, is less foggy. I'm able to focus more social media. So look, I'm very observant. It's not that I may not be able to follow all the latest trends, but I'm very observant. When I'm in churches, I spend time especially with the young people, and I listen keenly, and sometimes I do take time and see what is happening. What are the podcasts, for example, that many young people are watching, and all of those things. So I find other ways to keep up with Indwez and Zekayo. But I just decided when it comes to or TikTok or Facebook and all of those things, I'm going to take a break from them for the next 3 years. I might log in for maybe once in 3 or 6 months, just to look at something, whatever, or I see something that is happening and I quickly check. But look, I also believe that maybe God did not design for us to know what is happening everywhere. Maybe our inability to be everywhere at the same time was a protective measure for our minds. Maybe we're not supposed to be knowing what's happening in Sentin, what's happening in Rosebank, and what's happening in Cape Town, and what's happening in whatever. Maybe we need to concern ourselves with what's happening in our families, what's happening in our churches, in the people in our closer circles of influence. Because we find ourselves knowing a lot about what's out there, but knowing less about our spouses who are in our house and our children who are in our house. We know what was trending in whatever, but we don't know how our wife is feeling at the same time, and therefore I've also taken a decision that my primary responsibility when it comes to ministry is PE North, is PE North District, and the people that I serve in PE North, and so that's where my focus is going to be. And my primary responsibility when it comes to friends are the friends that I can pick up a phone and call, not the other 5,000 friends that I have on Facebook, which most of them, I don't know what's happening in their lives. And yeah. So sometimes we need to move from the superficial. It's better to have a few friends that you have deep conversations with than many friends that you have superficial relationships with. So I'm trying to remove the superficiality from my life, and I'm trying to go deeper and spend more time with the people that are closest to me. And that even includes in ministry. Of course, I mean, if something comes up and I need to minister to someone who is in Joburg, no problem. I'm often called to present maybe for a prayer meeting at Sentin or whatever. Then I'll be asked to go preach in Durban. I'll go and do that. But then I'll come back and I'll focus with the people who are in front of me. When I have more time in my hands, maybe I will do more on other social media platforms. And then lastly, I'm protecting myself. You know, I'm someone who can be very argumentative. So when I'm seeing someone talk something that is off on Facebook, sometimes there's a great temptation for me to engage. And I'm at a stage in my life that it's not the best for me to engage in certain platforms because it doesn't help anyone anyways. So that's another reason why I also took a backseat from social media, because I'm trying to protect myself in going into spaces where I don't really need to go. I can have conversations in the right platforms, but Facebook, I saw that it is useless sometimes to even have a conversation there because it goes nowhere.
Okay. Enkosi kakhulu mfundisi, uyabulela naye uthi it takes a lot of time and energy, and it's very true, because I'm just going to spend 2 seconds. I just want to watch this one video on TikTok, and the next thing it's 2 hours later, and you didn't even realize that it's taken so much of your time. And sometimes you end up, engaging in things that you should not be engaging in, and especially because sometimes we are poor and intimate relationships with people around you, not just even your spouse, but your family, and you don't even see what the world is needing from you, abantu who are here around you, because you are so deep into things that are happening outside of your proximity. So it's true.
Yeah.
It can take you, it can move your mind, ube ngathi ngumuntu lo or absent and yet you are present. So it's important to teach ourselves discipline, not only for our families and what we're talking about today, but for yourself as well, because because you are out. Unfortunately, this thing is going to cut. So before so same time, same place at 7 o'clock, with Mfundisi Debe nonkosikazi wakhe. Enkosi, ngicela sicimele.
Let us pray. Siyabulela Nkosi ngethuba othe wasipha lona ukuba sincokole ngezamakhaya, especially Nkosi ngendlela esebenzisa ngayo i-technology. Siyacela ke Nkosi usikelele and give us wisdom. We did not mean to be prescriptive, but to discuss the challenges that we have and maybe look at solutions. And the greatest and best solution is to come together before you as couples and to pray to you for guidance, and also to converse about these things openly, honestly, and also with love and grace towards one another, and also to be accountable to each other and to help each other. Sometimes they become deceitful. We think we're in control, but these things are gripping us by the throat, and they are controlling us. They are controlling our time. They are controlling our resources and everything, Lord. And we end up having lives that are not as productive as we could be, because of the time that we waste on social media. And young people are the greatest victims, because their attention spans are becoming less and less because of the time that they spend on social media. Even though they are beneficial uses, Lord, but give us grace to understand when and how to use these technologies in a beneficial way. Thank you, Lord, for being with us. Thank you for hearing our prayer. Please be with us, be with the Tebe family as they prepare to present and to feed the flock tomorrow. We pray and thank you for all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Mfundisi, for your time, and enjoy the rest of the wedding that you are attending, if it's a corner.
God
God Thank you for that joined today, Wangena. So, so same time, same place. Thank you and good night. Have a blessed evening.
Thank you.